My family urged me to sell my apartment to save our family hotel, then handed the CEO role to my brother. But the truth I uncovered shattered everything. What they were hiding behind my back left me speechless. I, 28 never thought my own family would orchestrate my downfall so meticulously. What started as a desperate plea to save our family business turned into the most devastating betrayal I've ever experienced. The emergency family meeting was called on a Tuesday evening in March. Dad's voice was strained when he asked everyone to gather at the hotel conference room. Our family had owned the Riverside Hotel for 3 generations, and it was struggling badly after the pandemic. Revenue had plummeted, debts were mounting, and bankruptcy seemed inevitable. Mom sat with red-rimmed eyes as Dad explained the situation. We needed immediate capital injection of $800,000 to keep the hotel afloat and avoid foreclosure. The bank had refused additional loans, and our options were running out fast. That's when all eyes turned to me. I owned a downtown apartment worth exactly $850,000 that I'd purchased 2 years ago with my savings and a modest loan. It was my pride and joy, my first real estate investment, and my future security. But family comes first, right? My older brother sat quietly during the discussion. At 32, he'd been working at the hotel for 8 years in various management roles. Dad praised his dedication and business acumen, mentioning how he'd been instrumental in keeping operations running during the crisis. The family pressure was immense. Mom reminded me how Grandpa had built this hotel from nothing, how it represented our legacy. Dad spoke about family loyalty and sacrifice. My sister chimed in about how selling my apartment would save everyone's livelihoods, including the 23 employees who'd been with us for years. I felt cornered, but also genuinely wanted to help. After 3 sleepless nights, I agreed to sell my apartment. The decision felt right at the time. I was single, could rent somewhere temporarily, and would be helping preserve our family's heritage. The sale process moved quickly. Within 6 weeks, I had $850,000 in hand. I transferred $800,000 to the family business account, keeping $50,000 for my moving expenses and security deposit on a rental. Dad was emotional when he thanked me, calling me the family hero. But then came the bombshell. 2 weeks after the money transfer, Dad called another family meeting. This time, the atmosphere was different, almost celebratory. He announced that with the hotel now financially stable, it was time to restructure management. My brother would be promoted to CEO, effective immediately. I was stunned. Throughout the crisis, there had been vague mentions of me taking a larger role in the business after my sacrifice. I'd assumed my financial contribution would translate into increased responsibility and ownership stake. Instead, I was offered a junior management position with a modest salary. When I questioned this decision, Dad explained that my brother had more experience and had proven himself during the difficult period. Mom added that I should be grateful for the opportunity to work in the family business at all. My brother remained silent, but I caught a brief smirk on his face. Something felt wrong. The timing, the sudden promotion, the dismissive attitude toward my concerns, it all seemed too convenient. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying conversations and interactions from the past few months, looking for clues I might have missed. The next morning, I decided to do some investigating. I started with the hotel's financial records, which I could access through my new junior position. What I discovered made my blood run cold. The hotel wasn't in nearly as dire straits as they'd claimed. Yes, revenue was down, but the business was still profitable. The debt situation, while concerning, wasn't immediately threatening. Most shocking of all, there were recent large withdrawals from the business account, money that had been moved to personal accounts belonging to my brother and father. I dug deeper, accessing bank statements and financial documents. The pattern became clear. They'd been systematically draining money from the hotel for months, creating an artificial crisis. The $800,000 I contributed wasn't saving the business. It was funding their personal expenses and investments. My hands shook as I printed the evidence. Bank transfers to my brother's personal account totaling $180,000 over 6 months. Payments to Dad's investment portfolio worth $220,000. Even Mom had received $45,000 for what was listed as consulting fees despite never working at the hotel. But the most devastating discovery was yet to come. Hidden in my brother's email correspondence, which I accessed through the shared company system, I found communications with a real estate development company. They'd been planning to sell the hotel property for over a year. The buyer was offering $2.8 million for the land and building. The emails revealed the entire scheme. My brother had convinced Dad that they could extract maximum value by first getting me to inject cash, then selling the property and splitting the proceeds between themselves. My $800,000 contribution would increase their profit margin significantly. The CEO promotion was just the first step in positioning my brother to execute the sale. I felt physically sick reading those emails. My own family had manipulated me into sacrificing my financial security so they could profit from selling our supposed family legacy. The hotel they'd claimed was worth preserving was just a commodity to them. The betrayal cut deeper than I'd ever imagined possible. These weren't strangers or business partners. This was my family. People I'd trusted unconditionally had orchestrated an elaborate deception to steal from me. I spent the weekend planning my response. Confronting them directly would likely result in denial and cover-up. I needed a strategy that would expose their scheme and recover my money. Monday morning, I contacted a lawyer specializing in family business disputes. After reviewing the evidence I'd gathered, she confirmed that I had grounds for both civil and potentially criminal action. The fraudulent misrepresentation of the hotel's financial situation, combined with the documented plan to sell the property while hiding this intention from me, constituted serious legal violations. My lawyer advised documenting everything before they became suspicious of my investigation. I spent the next week secretly copying financial records, email communications, and bank statements. The evidence painted a clear picture of premeditated fraud. The confrontation came sooner than expected. My brother noticed I'd been accessing financial systems more frequently and became suspicious. He confronted me in the hotel office, asking why I was reviewing old bank statements. I told him I was trying to understand the business better in my new role. He seemed satisfied with this explanation but mentioned it to Dad, who decided to restrict my system access to prevent confusion. This acceleration forced my hand. That evening, I called my own family meeting. Update 1. The family meeting I called was unlike any we'd ever had. I arrived with my lawyer and a folder full of evidence. The shocked expressions on their faces when they saw the legal representation told me they knew exactly why I was there. I laid out everything methodically. The bank statements showing their personal withdrawals, the emails about selling the hotel, the fabricated financial crisis, the real estate communications. Each piece of evidence landed like a physical blow. Dad tried to interrupt several times, attempting to explain or justify their actions. Mom started crying, claiming they never meant to hurt me. But my brother's reaction was the most telling. He sat in complete silence, his face pale, knowing he'd been caught red-handed. My lawyer presented them with two options: voluntary restitution of my $800,000 plus damages, or formal legal proceedings that would likely result in criminal charges for fraud. The choice was theirs, but they had 48 hours to decide. The room erupted after my lawyer finished speaking. Dad accused me of being ungrateful and destroying the family. Mom pleaded with me to reconsider, saying legal action would ruin everyone. My sister, who I later learned was completely unaware of the scheme, was horrified and sided with me immediately. But my brother finally spoke, and his words revealed the depth of his calculation. He told me I should have known better than to trust family with money. He said I was naive to think my contribution would earn me anything more than what they decided to give me. The callousness in his voice was chilling. That night, I moved out of my rental apartment and stayed in a hotel, ironically, a competitor of ours. I needed space to think and plan my next moves. The 48-hour deadline passed without any communication from my family. My lawyer filed the civil lawsuit and reported the fraud to local authorities. The criminal investigation began immediately. Update 2. The legal proceedings moved faster than expected. The evidence was overwhelming, and my family's lawyer advised them to settle rather than face criminal prosecution. The negotiation process was brutal but necessary. During discovery, even more shocking details emerged. The hotel sale had been planned for 18 months, not just the year I'd initially discovered. My brother had been systematically preparing for this scheme, even going so far as to create fake vendor invoices to justify some of the money transfers. Most devastating was learning that my parents had discussed managing me from the very beginning. Email exchanges between them revealed conversations about how to manipulate me into selling my apartment, with my brother providing detailed psychological insights about my personality and likely responses to different approaches. The settlement negotiations were tense. My family initially offered to return only $600,000, claiming business expenses and legal fees. My lawyer rejected this immediately, threatening to pursue the criminal case more aggressively. During this period, the hotel continued operating, but the stress was showing. Several long-term employees quit after learning about the legal situation. Local media picked up the story, damaging the hotel's reputation further. My sister became my only ally within the family. She was genuinely horrified by what had happened and testified on my behalf during depositions. She revealed additional details about family conversations she'd witnessed, including discussions about how to handle me if I became suspicious. The breakthrough came when investigators discovered that my brother had already begun transferring money to offshore accounts in preparation for the hotel sale. This evidence of ongoing financial manipulation strengthened the criminal case significantly. Faced with potential jail time, my family finally agreed to full restitution. The final settlement required them to return my $800,000 plus $150,000 in damages and legal fees. Additionally, they had to transfer a 25% ownership stake in the hotel to me, ensuring I'd benefit from any future sale. Update 3. The aftermath has been complex and emotionally draining. My family paid the settlement, but the relationships are irreparably damaged. Dad and Mom have barely spoken to me since the legal resolution. My brother moved to another state shortly after everything concluded, claiming he needed a fresh start. The hotel sale proceeded as they'd originally planned, but my 25% ownership stake meant I received $700,000 from the $2.8 million sale price. Combined with the settlement money, I recovered far more than my original $800,000 investment. I used the money to purchase a larger apartment and start my own business consulting company. The experience taught me valuable lessons about family dynamics, financial manipulation, and the importance of trusting but verifying. My sister and I have maintained our relationship. She's been instrumental in helping me process the emotional trauma of the betrayal. She also left the family business after the sale, disgusted by our parents' and brother's behavior. The most difficult part hasn't been the financial aspects. It's been accepting that my family was capable of such calculated deception. The people I trusted most in the world had systematically planned to exploit my love and loyalty for their personal gain. I've been in therapy for 6 months, working through the trust issues and emotional damage. The therapist helped me understand that their actions reflected their character, not my worth or judgment. Still, the betrayal fundamentally changed how I view family relationships and trust. Looking back, there were warning signs I missed or ignored. My brother's subtle competitiveness over the years, Dad's tendency to favor him in business discussions, Mom's manipulative communication style during family conflicts. I'd attributed these to normal family dynamics rather than recognizing them as indicators of deeper character flaws. The experience has made me more cautious, but also more self-reliant. I've learned to document important agreements, even with family members. I've also developed a stronger sense of my own worth and boundaries. 6 months later, I'm financially better off than before this ordeal began, but the emotional cost was enormous. The family I thought I knew doesn't exist anymore. The people who raised me were capable of elaborate deception and manipulation when money was involved. I occasionally wonder if they feel any genuine remorse or if they still view themselves as victims of my overreaction. Based on their continued silence and lack of any apology attempts, I suspect they believe they were justified in their actions. The hotel property was eventually developed into luxury condominiums. Sometimes I drive by the construction site and think about the family legacy that was never really about legacy at all, just money and personal gain disguised as tradition and loyalty. My advice to anyone facing family financial requests: love your family, but protect yourself legally. Get everything in writing, verify financial claims independently, and remember that desperation can reveal people's true character in shocking ways. Family loyalty should never be a one-way street, and sacrifice should never be exploitation in disguise. The truth they were hiding behind my back wasn't just about money. It was about who they really were when their interests conflicted with mine. That revelation was indeed speechless, but ultimately, it set me free.